No headphone time. Who
Yay.
needs headphones when you have ears?
We're leaving this in the episode now.
This is the intro. You're
And
welcome.
why use headphones when you have ears? Welcome back to the RNS podcast. This week you are listening to Racho Ran Randy Ravage and Sacho San Sandy Savage. How are you doing, Racho Ran Randy Ravage?
That's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I'm so
Is this the
sorry.
same joke twice? No, that would never happen.
Nah.
Because last time we were Randy and Savage, and now we're Racho Ran Randy Ravage and Sacho San Sandy Savage. So
Were we really? Was that last time?
it may have been last time. I don't remember.
Okay. Well,
Things are blurring together.
yeah, I promise you all we're not recording episodes back to back. I'm just stupid and that's how I think. So anyways, the date of recording this is Tuesday, January 19th, meaning 4 days ago. We saw the first two episodes of WandaVision, the first two episodes of the Marvel canon TV show, or I guess Marvel Disney Plus series. So to start right off, I mean, what were your general thoughts about these two episodes? Like, do you like them? Do you not?
It was definitely. I like the way that it's starting because, like, it was so much more sitcom esque than I expected it to be. I wasn't expecting to just watch an episode of I Love Lucy or the Dick Van Dyke Show,
Mhm.
but like with weirdly accurate cameras. Like it was grayscale, but like I could. It was really it's modern cameras. That was definitely like something I had to get used to, and I really appreciated how time accurate and era accurate it was. With the like camera like clipping effects, especially with creating the wedding rings where it was obviously a jump cut. The commercials that were filmed on set because everything was live back then. I also really liked how the commercials weren't just like a haha, remember this? They were actually helpful, like how in the first one we hear references to other movies, which we'll talk about when we get to it. So stuff like that, the first little blip of color, which I didn't even actually think about until I watched it again. I was like, wait, why is that red? Everything's supposed to be black and white. I
Yeah,
didn't even think about
exactly.
that the first time I watched it.
Hmm.
So yeah, just overall, I really appreciated how it's just a general sitcom. That's all it is, but also like there's underlying some of it is underlying weird like tension and unsettling undertones. And there's also scenes like in the first episode's kind of climax, you could say, where reality is just suddenly thrown into disarray for a few seconds and it comes back just as suddenly. So it's a very interesting series. It's a great first step for the next phase of Marvel.
So I really enjoyed these episodes. I wouldn't say they're perfect, and the only reason why I wouldn't say that is purely because of my impatience. We've just spent 18 months out of the MCU, and I kind of just want like I really wish that we did get Falcon and the Winter Soldier first, just because I miss the MCU. I want to feel like I'm back in that storyline again because we're still exploring what happens after Endgame. Spider-Man Far From Home is the last time we picked up in the world after Endgame. So I wish we could have dove back into that. But I know in the long run, I'm still going to look back and love this series because so far it is great. But there's all this, like I said before, I'm impatient and I want to know what this mystery is that's going on. Like, what the heck is happening? Because this show is weird and it is great. But with that being said, I grew up watching I Dream of Jeannie and I Love Lucy. I'm not old enough where I was watching them live, but still, like it.
Yeah, we're not quite Gen X or boomers.
Yeah, we're not boomers, but it felt great to watch I Love Lucy and I Dream of Jeannie again. I loved the little commercials they had, and I love that little cliffhanger we have at the end of chapter 2 where we're just like, Who's this beekeeper?" And then it's just like, "Oh, Wanda really does know what's going on." Like she says no, and changes the episode to end the way she wanted it to end, and also changed the setting to now we're in the 70s. But
Hmm.
uh, I know that the critics that have been able to review this series so far, they watched the first 3 episodes, so they've watched one more episode than we have, and apparently there's a big plot reveal at the end of chapter 3. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to learning more about Agnes Or
I've got my theories. I think I
yeah,
mentioned them earlier when we talked about it in previous
yeah,
episodes. But yeah,
aka Agatha Harkness. And
yes. Okay, cool.
we're gonna come back to Ralph because there is a fun theory about her husband Ralph, who's been mentioned twice now, once per episode,
Three
and
times.
3 times, yeah.
She
Who's
mentions Ralph twice in episode one.
Oh, okay. So he's mentioned a few times, but we haven't seen him yet. We'll come back to that. So
Yeah.
before we dive into our episode recap, we're gonna do things just a little bit differently. When we were covering The Mandalorian, every scene had something to offer to the overall story. While this series is a little bit different, we're not gonna go scene by scene on the sitcom. We're just gonna talk about the weird stuff that applies.
Yeah, because I mean, you've all seen sitcoms before,
Hmm.
and while I know that, like you were saying, we love the setting and the way that they pay homage to older sitcoms. If you want more of this stuff, just go watch I Love Lucy or Dick Van Dyke Show or I Dream of Jeannie. Like all of these shows exist and they're all awesome.
Hmm.
Um, but of course, the main, the meat and potatoes of the show so far has been like I mentioned, the reality altering weird MCU stuff.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
we'll start with chapter one. First of all, I don't like little thing for me. I'm not complaining. It's just my own personal thing. Wish they would come up with like episode titles. Like it's just WandaVision episode one, WandaVision episode two. Like at least I would at least like them to put 1950s or I love Wanda or I dream of
They can do something.
Vision or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
they do something where they play homage to the TV show or the way that they would name. So, like for example, it'd be great if when they get up to the '90s era, they could call it that one with Vision in the same way that
Yeah.
Friends names its episodes, and like that, like I Love Wanda or I Dream of Vision, something where it pays homage to the era and the style of sitcom they're
Hmm.
ripping off, not ripping off, they're paying homage to.
Yeah. So, all right, that's just my little thing. But let's get going. So, the sitcom or the sitcom storyline for chapter one takes place in the 1950s. Is Vision works at a job, which him learning how to do his job or what was going on with it, he's like, yeah, but what exactly do we do here? It was pretty funny. Um,
It was also a subtle like, we are a company that works. What do we do? We do. The reality doesn't let us know what we're supposed to do. This is
yeah.
Wanda's idea. Wanda doesn't know what you do, so you don't know what you do either.
So, due to sitcom circumstances, uh, they find themselves in an awkward dinner with Vision's boss. He wants to get that big promotion, yada yada yada. Wanda's acting like Lucille Ball, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I also really appreciate how there was like Wanda is aware of their abilities and who they are, even in this pocket reality universe thing,
Hmm.
where she's like, I am a magical being and you're a supercomputer who needs abbreviations when they actually
Yeah,
figure out what happens. Like, that was a cool
yeah.
fourth wall break there.
It's pretty funny. I gotta say, it was a pretty funny sitcom episode. But
Yeah.
the two like kind of mystery moments that's going on here, I guess three. Uh, I guess a few actually. So I do like how between the two episodes they carry over the same characters. So I'm wondering
hmm
like if all the other characters in there are kind of sword agents. Uh
Yeah, I'm thinking that a lot of them are sword agents that have been sucked into the universe,
mhm,
like what I believe is happening with that helicopter,
yeah.
and they just are assimilated into the universe, and they just like happened with the helicopter or with the beekeeper and stuff like that, where the universe is attempting to hide what's happening outside by just creating more sitcom hijinks and characters.
Mhm. So we then meet Wanda's neighbor, who's in both episodes, Agnes, who a lot of people think is Agatha Harkness, who is kind of I did a little bit of research on her. I didn't do too much research on her. I did research on something else, which I'll explain later, where she appears to be a witch who survived the Salem witch trials, who kind of teaches Wanda a lot about her powers until Wanda learns that she's actually evil. So we don't know how she's going to fit into this uh exactly because the story that they're going with here is a modified version of the House of M storyline, which Agatha Harkness was not in. So
Yeah.
we don't know why she's there right now. Maybe she's messing with Wanda's brain. I mean, something's weird for sure is going on. She also mentions a few times her husband, Ralph, who we have yet to see, who a lot of people online think that Ralph is code for Mephisto. That's what I've seen going on a lot there. I'd be very, very happy if this show introduces us to Mephisto in the MCU.
Yeah, if Agnes is in fact Agatha Harkness, then I think that is the easiest and most accurate assumption to come to is that Ralph is this Pocky universe's version of who Mephisto is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we'll go over as far as I can tell, there was kind of like two broken reality moments in this episode. I'm gonna call them broken reality moments just because I don't know what's the best way to or
Some berms.
yeah. Yeah, berms. Yeah, that's what they're called now. BRMs, broken reality moments, berms.
Berm.
Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. We'll get to The Office later this season. So, anyways, uh, from there, so the two BRM moments, one of them is a commercial. So we are introduced to the Stark Industries Toastmate 2000 toaster oven. I really wish they went with Toastmate 3000 because I love you 3000.
That would have been really cool, yeah.
But we we're watching this commercial and we're just like Stark Industries. Okay, why are they mentioning Stark? And then the toaster starts beeping. And for the first time, because the whole episode's in black and white, being true to the 1950s, we see a red light blinking on it. So this is some sort of device, obviously. This is either like a bomb or it's something that's keeping Wanda in this reality. We don't know what it is yet. Do you have any fun theories about it?
Um, Nothing specifically about the toaster. I think because it is still on set, it is one is still able to actually see this thing. And yeah, it's similar to the commercial we see in episode 2, but it is something that is beeping or ticking and is speeding up. A theory that I've heard is just that this beeping is a signal that Wanda is speeding up through time because each episode is a different decade or a different era of sitcom. But also, one of the slogans is "Forget the past. This is your new future," which is weirdly ominous. The slogan for the toaster.
So the other BRM moment that we have in this episode is at one point during the dinner, Mr. Hart, his boss, and his wife start asking Wanda and Vision. It's just like, where are you from? What are you doing here? Like they start to get a little aggressive because Wanda and Vision don't know the answer to this question. And we get this ominous music and the camera angles start to twitch a little bit and act a little freaky. And then Mr. Hart starts choking on his food. So this scene didn't really reveal a whole lot about the plot. We were just like, huh, that's weird. Maybe reality's changing in here a little bit. So episode ends happily ever after. Wanda and Vision, or Vision gets the promotion. He impressed his boss enough. Wanda gives him some wedding rings. And then we see that someone is watching the episode. Someone in regular reality is watching this episode, and there's a sword logo on a monitor next to the TV that they're watching this on. And I think we saw like whoever's watching has got some boots on the desk or whatever. So like we know someone's watching this. So that's really all that we learned for the first episode. The first episode kind of just introduced us to what's going on. Like Wanda's making a sitcom and something is breaking into her reality. Like something weird is going on. People on the outside know that this is not okay.
I saw the reality altering things and also the TV show as just like someone. That's how this universe is being monitored. Is it's in the form of a TV show because that's how the Sword Agent is monitoring it. But yeah, that the dinner scene where reality begins to get weird and just the angles are getting Dutchier and Dutchier,
Yeah.
and just the wife is just stop it over and over. Like it is one of the most uncomfortable scenes I've experienced in like
In the
most
MCU.
of and in the MCU and a lot of media that I've watched. I've not been that thrown for a loop for a while because reality is weird and the wife won't stop repeating the same thing over and over, and like they won't do anything until Wanda realizes something is actually wrong, can break out of this weird pause and say, "Hey, Vision, help him." and then he like acts as if he's normal Vision outside of the universe and uses his powers to grab the piece of food lodged in the Mr. Hart's throat.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was very weird, but that was what they were going for. So good job, WandaVision people.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a great introduction to the idea of the show and to more introducing in small parts the themes we'll be seeing grow throughout the series.
All right. So with that being said, let's move on to the next episode, the I Dream a Genie episode. So, basic summary of the sitcom before we go back into the BRM moments. WandaVision are trying to sleep. Something's banging against the side of the house. We have the storyline where WandaVision try to put on a magic show, but it's not really, real magic. Vision gets drunk on a piece of gum. Wanda tries to cope with being part of like a Rotary Club or a women's club or whatever. We all live happily ever after until things get weird in the end.
I liked that the scene in the trailer where it's just like another jump cut was because it was in the trailer and it wasn't actually exactly the beds moving together and merging exactly at the one after the other,
Hmm.
where it was one was a result of Wanda being scared and the other was, you know, sex times, I
Yeah.
guess. Um
Put it together.
yeah, I don't like that they imply the reproductive cycle of an android and then they just ignore it.
Yeah.
Like
I
suddenly
I'm
just
sure that
Mephisto makes her pregnant or whatever.
yeah. Maybe we'll come back and get some explanation for how does that work later. But let's start getting into the weird reality stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So, first of all, we see this toy helicopter laying in a bush near Wanda. And of course, it's the 1960s, so, helicopters don't look like modern helicopters. And the helicopter is red. It's the first color we've seen in this episode. I guess all the colors that we see between the two shows so far is red, which is kind of cool, symbolic somehow. We also see on the helicopter there's the sword logo on it as well. So somehow this helicopter has ended up in their reality. We then move on to Wanda is in her women's club meeting. I forgot what they called themselves, but it's not important. And
Like a
she,
neighborhood watch kind of. Well, no, that's Vision's thing.
yeah,
Yeah, just a
women's
stitching
club,
club,
something like
women's
that.
club. Yeah.
Yeah. So Agnes takes her there and tells her that, hey, if you want to get your kids into a good school, whenever you have kids, you got to be friends with Dottie, like all that crap. And Wanda meets someone who we know is playing Monica Rambeau. So Monica Rambeau is in this storyline now.
Hmm.
And it was interesting to see that Monica didn't know her name until she shook hands with Wanda. And then Monica says, oh, I'm Geraldine. Nice to meet you.
Oh, so you I didn't catch that where she didn't know her name until she actually
Yeah.
touched Wanda.
Yeah.
I
She's,
thought she just made it up. No, that's an interesting
I mean, it
detail.
could be she just made it up, but it was kind of like she doesn't know what's going on. And then Wanda literally kind of pulls her into the story. It's just like, oh, okay, you're a part of this now. Welcome.
Oh, that's interesting.
So the scene plays out. Wanda's helping Dottie clean up. And then Wanda gets distracted because on the radio, it's say she keeps hearing, Wanda, come in, Wanda, Wanda, who's doing this to you? It's repeating over and over again. We get weird camera angles, weird music. Dottie cuts her hand and she bleeds red, and it's actually red.
Yeah, weird things. The voice of the agent is, I think, remind me, I think it's Agent Wu is his name, the guy who is seen allowing Scott Lang out of his house arrest
Yeah, he
in
was.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, he's a sword agent.
Yeah, we saw him in the trailer for this
Hmm.
show, and then we also saw, or yeah, he was a big, he was kind of a big character in Ant Man and the Wasp. And when we were watching the episode, I was wondering, it's like, I wonder if that is Agent Wu, but I didn't watch Ant Man and the Wasp to figure out if this was the guy.
Yeah, I think it has been confirmed, not confirmed, but theorized this is Agent Wu. It's very similar voice to that actor.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's the same thing where there's interference through technology, and we get it short circuits, and so does Dottie apparently,
Hmm.
where she breaks something and her hand is bleeding in color. So like the fact that it's not even like, in the past, technology is the only thing that had color on it. The toaster, the helicopter that breaks in, that's I think that's it. But the fact that just Dottie bleeding is in color is kind of showing like what is color is representing the interference to Wanda's perfect sitcom world.
Mhm.
And that also includes the consequences of Wanda attempting to keep this world alive,
Yeah.
or someone attempting to keep her in it.
So moving on from that, we then get the next commercial, which is a Strucker watch with a Hydra logo on it. S-
I was not expecting to see a Hydra logo in the show,
Yeah.
but there it is, and Strucker's name.
hmm So this makes me wonder a couple things. One, is Hydra somehow important to the story? And B, is Strucker somehow important to the story? Because as we know from Age of Ultron in Wanda and Quicksilver's origins, is that Strucker took these two kids and used the Mind Stone to give them powers. So it makes me wonder, it's just like, okay, Ultron killed Strucker. And does this somehow make Strucker relevant to the story again?
I think Hydra is important to the story only because Hydra is the reason that Wanda exists at all. And um, we also see in the trailers that we will most likely in the later, probably like actual MCU style episodes when we get out of the sitcom era, we will revisit Wanda's creation because we see her kind of staring in awe at yellow light, which is the Mind Stone.
Mhm.
Um, so I think Hydra is important to the story because we will revisit Wanda's origin, and because Wanda exists because of Hydra. But I'm not sure if Strucker, I'm not sure if this is an introduction to Hydra and Strucker being important to the story, or if it was just a hey look Hydra and Strucker, kind of like how it was like hey look Stark in the last episode.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like, "Hey, here's some names from the MCU, remember them?" And it's just,
Hmm.
maybe we're gonna explore Strucker and Hydra's past in creating her. So, anyways, we go on to what's a pretty funny scene of Wanda and Vision trying to put on a town show for the town, and Vision's drunk because gum is in his gears, and well, it's a pretty funny scene. I'll give it to him on that.
I
Um,
did appreciate earlier on when he ingests this gum.
yeah.
I really appreciated the era callback where he said this person is a communist. I'm like, you're gonna get someone killed, Vision. Oh my god.
It's like, "Oh, no." And that
It's also a little bit of a witch hunt,
it
possibly.
yeah.
Hmm.
I really like the old time or old style animation showing the gum in his gears, which also reminds me,
Yes, that was cool.
I loved the theme song with the animation that they put in there at the beginning of this episode, where it really
Yeah,
is "I Dream a Genie" right on the nose. So Wanda and Vision win the town show, then things get weird. So
very.
the scene goes or the episode goes to end out, and they hear a noise outside their house late at night. So they go outside. They see a beekeeper climbing out of the sewers.
Well, before this, Wanda is suddenly pregnant.
Yeah. All of a sudden, baby
Yeah,
bump.
Wanda is all of a sudden having a baby bump. She's suddenly pregnant,
Yeah.
and then they hear this noise and they go out and see the beekeeper just climbing out of the street.
Yep. And he stares them down. And Wanda says no. That she rewinds the episode where it ends with baby. And then she changes the aesthetic or she changes the setting to now we're in the 70s. We're now in color. I guess we're doing that 70s show now. I guess
Yeah, I
that's what it
mean,
is.
it might be that '70s show, but that was a '90s sitcom.
Right.
So it could be Happy Days, which was
Mm,
filmed in the '70s but set in the '50s. I'm not sure
yeah.
exactly how
S-
they're doing it, but
So this
it could also be something else.
this reveals kind of a lot to us. It reveals that Wanda is she's aware that she can control the setting, and she's aware that she can alter things to be the way she wants them to be, which is kind of big. Like the first episode and most of the second episode up until this point makes it seem like she doesn't or she can't control what's going on. But now we know that she's aware and she has control. Control to what degree we don't know. But she knows this is happening, which is kind of huge.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like hopefully she would know what's happening because that's probably why Vision is alive anyway. Because Vision in regular MCU timeline is dead. No resurrections this time. So Wanda has to have had some input into why this pocket universe exists because otherwise Vision would not be able to exist. It may, but of course, you could also swing it in the way that Mephisto is attempting to harness Wanda's powers or something by making her think that Vision's still alive or whatever. Theories are theories and are crazy because we don't have too much information right now. But yeah,
So overall, I think I like the second episode more, just
yeah,
because we're getting more of an idea of what the mystery is, and I'm very happy that they decided to release the first two episodes at once.
yeah. I mean, I think they needed to because otherwise it would have been like, oh, it's just a sitcom with like weird,
Weird moments.
weird moments. Cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I like the second episode more because I like get really weird secondhand embarrassment from watching sitcoms, and so I actually
Yeah.
didn't like the scene where Vision had to just start singing
Hmm.
Yakety Yak. Though I do like that they referenced that song.
Man, I'm gonna hate the Office episode, aren't I?
But I did like the second episode more because I don't know too many things that Paul Bettany is in besides this, the Da Vinci Code, he's in Solo,
Hmm.
Star Wars story.
Right, I
So
forget about that often.
yeah, I don't know too many roles that he's done where he's not just like serious man.
Yeah.
And this one, he's just acting drunk, and I think that Paul Bettany just had an awesome, amazing time with the role, and it's really
Oh yeah.
fun to see someone who I kind of think of as like a more like a Liam Neeson, where they do action movies and serious roles all the time, where he's just acting drunk.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see that play out and how one was like, how can I hide the fact that he's an android?
Hmm. Dude, their chemistry together is so amazing, and
Oh yeah.
I think like if what however the show plays out, and at the end of it, Vision is still dead, no resurrections, then we're gonna look back on this, and this is just a swan song to their relationship. Because
Hmm.
I mean, in the MCU itself, we actually don't really get to see this play out too much. Like we kind of get we kind of get some relationship vibes in Civil War and Infinity War. And then he's killed at the end of Infinity War, and he's not in Endgame. And if again, like I said, if at the end of this Vision isn't back in the MCU and we're not going to see Vision again, this is a wonderful swan song to him.
Yeah.
So, moving away from the episode, I want to tell you about the House of M storyline in the
Hmm.
comics. So, I did research on this, and I can see what elements they are copying from House of M into the storyline, and I can see what they aren't doing for now. So, House of M was a storyline in the comics that ran in real life around like 2005. So Professor X has Wanda on the island of Genosha, which is kind of a big island for mutants. It's very important in the storyline.
Island of Geonosis.
No, not Geonosis. Stop it.
I know.
They're wiped out. So they're on the island of Genosha, and Professor X basically has Wanda there because he's keeping her kind of in captivity, kind of not. He's trying to control her powers because he knows that she's going insane, and with her chaos magic, she's losing control. So he's realized that he's at a point where he can't control her powers anymore. So Professor X calls a meeting between the X-Men and the Avengers, and also in the comics, Magneto is the father of Wanda and Pietro, Quicksilver, if you will. So he calls a meeting between the X-Men and the Avengers, and at this meeting, he's like, "Hey, I'm losing control of her. What the hell do we do? Like, she can alter reality, and I can't control that anymore." So Emma Frost, one of the mutants or one of the X Men, is just like, dude, we gotta kill her. And Captain America, being Cap, is like, no, 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 no. We could try alternative therapy. We could try other methods. I'm not gonna sacrifice her life for the life of billions. So Quicksilver's at this meeting for some reason and knows that the meeting's gonna go this way. So he runs off. He runs back to Genosha and tells Wanda, "Hey, this is going on." So we'll come back to that. After this meeting adjourns and they haven't yet decided on what to do, they're all going to sleep on it. One by one, the X-Men and the Avengers start to disappear. There's like a flash of white light, they're gone. And so it turns out they've been pulled into a reality where everything is the way they want it to be. So Peter Parker's Spider-Man he could be a celebrity. Everyone can know his identity. It's cool, and he's married to Gwen Stacy. Uh, the House of M rises, where Magneto is, the leader of the House of M, and he and his children and his wife rule. The mutants rule over regular humans, and basically everything is the way they want it to be, except Wolverine with his powers knows he's like, this ain't right. Something's going on. This is weird. So one by one, he's telling the other Avengers and other X-Men, he's like, this isn't right. Something's going on. Where's Scarlet Witch? Where's Wanda? So this leads to a showdown on the island of Genosha. Basically, the rest of the X-Men and the Avengers attack Genosha, where the House of M is ruling from. They have a showdown. So Quicksilver is trying to get to Wanda to basically try to escape with her, and Magneto murders Quicksilver, and Wanda snaps. She says, "Daddy, you've messed up." Like, she actually says, "Daddy." I forget the quote, but at the end she says, "No more mutants." And everything goes white again. They go back to their reality, but Wanda has taken away almost every single mutant's powers. From In their reality, there were at one point about a few million mutants. Some of them haven't yet discovered their powers. Some of them are in hiding. Some of them are X-Men. She changes the reality where a few million mutants became a few hundred mutants. A lot of mutants lost their powers. Like, Professor X lost his powers. I think Magneto lost his powers. Wanda and Quicksilver lost their powers, but some of them, like, Cyclops, still has his. Morph, I think, does. But I know I got a few details wrong. But basically, what it was, Wanda was losing control of her powers. Altered reality created a new reality. We see the full extent of her powers. So
Hmm.
that's the House of M storyline. There are so many aspects of it that they're not going to do. There may be other aspects they are going to do that we are yet to see. But it's basically coming down to Wanda's changing reality to the way she wants it to be, and there's outside forces that see that this is going on and they're trying to fix it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard the idea that this is a reverse House of M, where at the end of it, Wanda says no more mutants and alters reality to remove most mutants from the world. But here, the outside force allows Wanda to realize that her husband is no longer alive versus her brother, and she snaps, and all of this weird, funky stuff that's happening inside of the reality spreads to the whole universe and allows mutants to exist. So instead of removing mutants, she creates them for the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally possible. I could see this playing out a number of ways, but either way, like, there's going to be something big coming at the end of this series, because we know that Wanda's a mutant, and they can now actually say she is a mutant.
Yeah, they
So
don't have to say what enlightened. What was that? What they called them back
enhanced,
in
enhanced,
enhanced? That's right, enhanced.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, copyright.
Yep. So yeah, I'm super excited. Like, now that I know the House of M storyline, I'm very excited to see where this goes. So we know from the critics that there's going to be a big reveal at the end of episode 3, which is coming out this Friday. I think one of three things could happen. One, which is the most likely, Quicksilver will make his debut in the show. He's gonna show up at
Yep.
the end, and one is like, "Oh, and my brother Pietro is visiting," or whatever. Number two, I think that we're gonna get a little bit more of a glimpse from the outside world, where, like, we may see Agent Woo be like, "Hey, how's reality going? Oh, it's terrible," or whatever's going on. I don't fully understand the scenario we're in. I don't think anyone does. Or
Yeah,
three,
it's all crazy. Just ah.
or three, we have some sort of villainous meeting where Agatha Harkness is it Harkness or Harkness?
I think it's Harkness with a K.
Harkness. Okay. Agatha Harkness is like calling Mephisto. She's like, "Hey, what's good, Ralph? Oh, you're Mephisto now," or whatever. I I think those are like the three possible reveals we have, or maybe or four. Wanda goes through the '70s episode pregnant and has her kids at some point in the episode or at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I think that any of those are plausible. I am leaning more towards Pietro or Sword or Babies because I think that it might be a little early in the series to introduce Mephisto, but if you'd like to go down that road, we could introduce her twin sons, which in the comics are, I think, controlled by Mephisto.
Yeah, there's something weird. There's some weird link between the
There's a
the
link between
twins and
her
Mephisto.
twins and Mephisto. So if you don't want to introduce Mephisto in episode 3 of 9, I think if you wanted to go down that Mephisto route, we could theorize that the babies will be born. But I also think that I mean, it could be any number of things where the babies are born, uh, and oh no, the brother's visiting, but the babies are being born. What do we do? Sitcom hijinks. It could be both.
Oh yeah.
Anything could happen. But I think that any of those, combination or singular, of the things you just mentioned probably will happen, because of Disney Plus's love of like mention in episode N, reveal more in episode N plus two, just like how they did with Mandalorian. Of course, I have so many data points. It's one show, but they might lean towards the sword reveal because we saw a little glimpse of sword at the very end of the first episode. So we might see a bit more, maybe people walking around the compound, around what the universe looks like from the outside.
Yeah.
Maybe we see that scene from the trailer where someone is launched from the nothingness of TV pixel hell.
That is true. I'm gonna play off of that a little bit with your N+2 thing.
Hmm.
So we find out in episode 1 that Sword is watching this like a television show. Sword is trying to reach her. So maybe at the end of episode 3, we have the scene where Agent Wu is running up to something and he could be trying to call Wanda, be like, "Wanda, who's doing this to you?" We see a little bit of that scene. Maybe then in episode 4, we see whoever the person that's launched into some sort of like force field or whatever, which is Monica Rambeau. That looks like Monica Rambeau is being launched. That could be at they could show that at the end of episode 4 because Monica Rambeau was introduced in episode 2.
Hmm.
That could be how it's played out. But I also agree with what you said about Mephisto, where maybe he's introduced in episode 6, which is theoretically the last of the sitcom episodes, which will be the Office themed episode. Maybe he's introduced later in there because we do see. I went back and watched the trailers, knowing what we know now about the series. I always love to do that. Once you get like a couple of episodes into something, go back and watch a trailer and put together things. Uh,
Hmm.
Agnes is standing all wifely and husbandly, like with someone in the trailer. So maybe we do actually see Ralph later on in the show. So
It could be the guy that Vision gets the name wrong of in the magic show, though. I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
mhm,
But yeah, the guy who was like at the head of the neighborhood watch, I think it was him that she was standing with. But maybe they're neighbors, or
yeah.
maybe she eventually actually divorces Ralph and marries him, something like that.
Either way, I do really like this mystery so far because
Hmm.
it's one of those mysteries where we don't know what the mystery is yet. We don't really know what questions we're supposed to be asking. We're just sitting here like
We don't even know what we don't know. Like,
exactly. Which again is a great storyline, but I'll go back to I wish Falcon and a Winter Soldier came first. So we can have an idea of what's going on in this universe. Either way, I still really enjoy the show. And in hindsight, I'll probably love these episodes, which I didn't love the episodes, but I still greatly enjoyed them, if that makes sense. I'm not complaining.
yeah.
I just think in hindsight, I'll appreciate it. I'm calling it now. I'm going to say I was right. And now, with that being said, probably not going to be right.
Because you
I,
mentioned it.
yeah, just because I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
The rumors that I agreed with, where it feels like it's going to be 6 sitcom episodes followed by 3 hour long MCU heavy episodes. Really feels like it is going to follow that format, but I could still totally be wrong, and I may have just jinxed it.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin Feige is listening to you right now, and he's like, "Nope, gotta change it because Spencer said so."
Yep, gotta switch that up.
Hmm.
So I guess we'll jump into 3 tidbits of news that I remember off the top of my head. One was Ray Fisher, the actor who plays Cyborg, said on social media that he has been removed from the Flashpoint script due to his not wanting to work with Walter Hamada, who is the executive producer of the DCEU. Ray Fisher was just like, I don't like Walter. We didn't get along. A lot of my complaints about what happened with Justice League is to go back against him. I'm never going to work with him again. And then Walter Hamada's just like, okay, bet, cut him from the script. So Ray Fisher was just like, it wasn't going to be a cameo. I was actually going to have a small role in Flashpoint. So there's that. Say what you will about the situation, whether you're on board with what Ray had to say, whether you agree with what Walter had to say. Say what you will about the situation. I'm just stating the facts. We're not going to get into it on this podcast. Also, because Riley, you probably don't really know or much about that drama.
Nope, but I'm glad that you mentioned it.
Yeah. I don't even fully understand the drama. I just know what went wrong in the shooting of Justice League. I don't know about this Walter Hamada drama. I'm just kind of staying away from it. We also, in other DC news, which I texted you about a couple days ago, where
Mhm.
Zack Snyder confirmed that instead of Justice League Snyder Cut being 4 1-hour episodes, which I would have liked to see it play out like that, Justice League Snyder Cut is now going to just be one long ass movie, the way it was supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah, like a Lord of the Rings style, massive extended edition kind of thing. BVS meets LOTR.
Yeah. So I think that was really it in regards to news. We still haven't heard anything about Bad Batch, which makes me sad.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel like that's gonna be like an April or May thing. So, anyways, that's all we had for news, and that's what we had for WandaVision so far. And very much looking forward to the next episode. I'm so excited to see what this kind of like reveal is at the end. It'll probably answer some things and also provide way more questions than it does with answers. So
Just like a good MCU thing does, it's a great jump off point for the next phase and will give us more Q's than A's.
this is also random. The credits were 8 minutes long.
Yeah,
Like, like I noticed that when I was watching it on my first watch through, I was just like, oh, 8 minutes of credits. There's got to be a post credit scene in there. So like I quickly fast forwarded through the credits, like expecting something. I was like, all right,
I think it's because they do WandaVision credits and then they do sitcom credits.
yeah, yeah.
So
So
yeah,
that's what's happening. But anyways, thank you so much for listening to episode 9 of the RNS podcast. You've been listening to Mr. R and Mr. S because I don't want to say that dumb mouthful that I introed this episode with. Riley, where can you listen to this?
yeah. So we've been branching out a little bit from our original posting on just YouTube. You can listen to us on Anchor, on Spotify, and some other places that you can find us through. The big ones, though, right now are Anchor, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Yeah, we have been branching out from YouTube, so if you'd like to be able to listen to us if you don't have a YouTube premium subscription, you can actually listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, Google Play Podcasts, places like that, where you can just throw your phone into your car or into your pocket while you're doing a run or something. Just listen to us talk about nerd stuff, you know? Other than that, if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything you'd like to mention to us, we do have an email that you can send us some friendly letters and whatnot at randspod at gmail.com, randspod at gmail. If you'd like to give us some little feedback that we can probably mention on the next episode of the podcast, we will definitely bring that up. If you'd like to be featured on the podcast, if you know us or are a influential person or just want to talk, you can message us either through the email or if you know us personally, just, you know, message us. Otherwise, yeah, we are beginning to get this little podcast off the ground, getting to some nice, cool places, taking some awesome big steps into the space. So, yeah, thanks for listening through all of our banter and talk. We have, as one of my podcasts says, strong opinions about things that don't matter. So, I think it's great.
All right. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Yakety yak. That's the episode. Let's get out of here. Bye, Riley.
See ya.